That was Bobby Isaac, but there's been a crash on the home stretch. A car upside down.
And that's
a
Richard
blue
Petty.
car. It is Richard Petty. There, that looks like Richard's helmet sticking out of the car, and he certainly appears to be unconscious. The pit crew running out. The yellow flag, of course, is out. This could be a very bad accident to one of the best-known race drivers in the world, Richard Petty of Randleman, North Carolina, son of Lee Petty, and his father, I'm sure, is one of the men coming out there now, along with his brother Maurice, who also works on the pit crew. Fortunately, the car did not catch fire, and possibly that's a tribute once again to the fuel cells that are used nowadays, Ned.
Yes, it is, Jim. That, of course, is mandatory that all the cars have the fuel cells, and in an accident of this type, it's a big help. There's no doubt about it. Richard wrecked where he did. You can see some of the damage on the pit wall, and he had a similar accident earlier in the week in a different car, Jim, just after qualifying. Of course, it was not nearly as serious as the one we see here.
Well, the look at that pit wall gives you some idea of the impact with which Richard Petty hit it. He actually cracked the wall, almost went all the way through it, and had he gone through that or slipped up over it, it could have been a real tragedy in the pit area. However, go ahead, Ned.
It certainly could have, but as NASCAR requires that the pit area be separated by a pit wall such as we see here, and it takes a tremendous lick to do the damage to this wall that it did. Of course, he was running perhaps 150 miles an hour, and a 4,000-pound automobile going at this speed can do a lot of damage.
Ned, we won't try to look forward on what might have happened to Richard Petty, except to try to report the impact of the car as we see it. Obviously, you saw how hard he hit the wall. Also, it appears that the roof is caved in a bit, as if even the roll cage might have given a little bit, do you think?
Jim, with the lick, as Richard Petty has taken here, it's almost impossible to have put a set of roll bars in a car that would withstand this kind of punishment. Of course, when the car turned upside down, which is very unusual that you see one of these cars turn upside down, but when he got into that wall the way that he did, it, of course, shifted the weight of the car around and resulted in him turning over down the straightaway. And there is a tremendous amount of pressure put on the roll bars in a case like this.
So that is the factual situation as we know it up to this moment. There is the ambulance out on the track right now, and as far as I can see, do they have him out of the car? I can't see as yet.
I believe they do have.
Yes, there he is. He's in the ambulance, and Richard Petty will be rushed to the hospital. The safety precautions here, as at all of the NASCAR tracks, are on the ball there.
Jim, that's Maurice Petty, Richard's brother, riding in the back of the ambulance as we see it going into the track hospital.
The race will continue, incidentally. We are operating under a yellow flag here. They have not red flagged the race. Pit stops are actually going on around that wrecked car of Richard Petty's as drivers continue to take advantage of the yellow flag to improve their position in the race. 179 laps have gone by. The race is scheduled for 291. But it's going to take a little while of racing under the yellow flag to get this racing car off the track. I've never seen one of your NASCAR cars crumple quite that way from top to bottom in the roof area.
Neither have I, Jim. It's one of the most serious accidents as far as automobile damage is concerned that I have seen. You can see that the left door is completely torn away. Of course, you can see the roll bar cage, which protects the driver on the left side. And I'm sure this was a big help to Richard in there, but it did actually completely tear the door away from, and the door was welded shut, or bolted shut and welded to the roll bars.
Well, now, he hit that wall shortly after he came out of the fourth turn. We have said a couple of times earlier in our broadcast here that the fourth turn has become the dangerous one here at Darlington after they straightened out the third and changed things. Here comes some word on Richard. He is conscious in the ambulance and is moving his arm. So Richard Petty is conscious at this moment as he is being taken to the hospital. What his injuries are, of course, we have no idea. We'll be getting word from the hospital just as soon as we possibly can. Ned, we were talking about the nature of the accident that did happen coming out of the fourth turn. Could you speculate as to what might have happened to Richard?
In talking with some of the drivers earlier, of course, they've changed the track since I last drove it, Jim, and of course you would make a different approach now, but they say that as you approach the third turn, after you go into the third turn, I should say, and approach the fourth turn, you would start picking up speed and setting yourself to come off the number 4 turn. And if you don't go fast enough, accelerate hard enough coming off the fourth turn, that you're subject to, when you get out there, it's a natural reaction that you would press heavier on the accelerator, which would cause the front end to push and might cause the front end to go into the wall. And if you get on it If you get on it too heavy, the back end would break loose, so it's a tough turn to come off of.
All right, Ned, we have some word from the pit area from Bob Montgomery. Bob, what's the story?
Standing right alongside me is Richard's brother, Maurice. Maurice, it happened so fast, I doubt if you know what happened, but what is Richard's condition, could you tell?
Well, he's laying there broken now. Looks like his left arm. It's either sprung real bad or broke, and they're cutting his uniform away to get into him. His head's beat on, bloody, and his eyes hurt a little bit. He'll be all right, though.
But he is talking.
Yeah, he's talking. He knows everybody.
You look pretty beat yourself.
Long run.
Now back to you, Jim.
Bob, that's the best word we could have had. I'm sure you could tell from the tone in which Ned and I had been talking earlier that it certainly was one of the worst-looking accidents we've seen on the NASCAR circuit in a long time. However, the immediate word now, as you heard it from Richard Petty's brother, is that he is conscious, he has a bloody face, he's having a little trouble seeing but can see, and apparently has trouble with his left arm. He said what? It's either broken or what?
Or
Cut, I
sprained.
couldn't understand. Or sprained. But that is a lot less than it could have been in a crash like this. So there's the automobile, and you can almost graphically see the tribute to the roll cage that is built into these cars. He was on that roof. You can see that would be absolutely flat. It would be squashed flat were it not for the roll cage inside the car. Were it not for the fuel cells, it's quite possible that with an impact like that, he could have caught fire, and he was unconscious.
Jim, I don't
Here is
think
just 1 second, Ned. We're trying to follow the story pictorially as it goes, and here is the hospital at the track here, an emergency hospital where they can make their first readings and where the track doctor can say whether to keep him here, send him to the hospital in Darlington or Florence, or whatever. It's a very good setup. Excuse me, Ned.
Well, while you're commenting on that, this is one of the big advantages that a race driver has in participating on a track of this type is that they do have as much safety equipment as can possibly be brought here, and of course trained personnel to handle all of the equipment. I was going to comment before you went to the hospital scene that I believe that it would be impossible to wreck a highway automobile in this form and anyone live in such an accident. But there again, with the safety features that are built in to these automobiles, this is the reason that the features are built there, is to help the driver in a circumstance such as this.
Another point might be that these men on the racetrack, the men who are still racing, are skilled in their profession almost beyond anything you can understand as an ordinary driver. There might be a tendency on the part of some people to think of a stock car race driver as a young hot rod. Just look at their ages to begin with, and you'll see that isn't true. I think Pete Hamilton's about the youngest of the big-time drivers. He's 27 years old. These
Yes.
are men in their late 20s and their early and middle 30s who have been schooled and trained and are the very best at their craft. They wouldn't do anything like this on a highway. What is it like? What is the feeling, or can you say, Ned, in the minds of the other drivers out there as the race goes on? They see the condition of Richard's car. They probably don't have an idea of what has happened to him. Do you think about the accident, or can you keep your mind purely on the race?
Well, they would all be concerned of Richard's condition, but their pit crews will most likely keep them posted as far as his condition is concerned, or at least the fact that he is conscious and talking to people, and this would relieve their mind, and then they could get their mind back on the business.
Richard Petty's car being towed off the racetrack. Again, he is conscious. Apparently, he is all right. The worst they can foresee at this moment is a possible broken arm. We'll be back for more of the live racing from Darlington in a minute.